Before this video, please drop a like and subscribe. The tale of David and Goliath is told in the 17th chapter of 1 Samuel. It is one of two stories that presents David to King Saul. The main story you are no uncertainty acquainted with too. It recounts David playing the harp to mitigate the exhausted psyche of Saul. The second tale about David the Goliath executioner starts with the Israelites and Philistines facing each other prepared for a major fight. They were arranged on two slopes. One day David went to the Israelite camp with food from home for his siblings in the military. At the point when he showed up, he heard Goliath provoking any Israelite to come out and battle him. All the fighters were hesitant to respond to the call. Goliath was a monster of a man. As indicated by the story, he was 9½ feet tall and stacked with hefty covering. His appearance and challenge struck dread in the Israelite fighters. At the point when David saw their dread, he was flabbergasted and shocked. David had a straightforward confidence and trust in God. He accepted that with the Lord on his side, he was unable to be vanquished in any test. He accepted that Israel couldn't be crushed since the Lord was in favor of Israel, and he was subsequently very astounded to see the negative response of the troopers in the Lord's military. David rushed to respond to the call of battling the Goliath. Different troopers thought it was silly that a lean child would even consider battling a monster. However, they took him to Saul to get his consent. Saul also was hesitant, however David persuaded him. David told Saul of his encounters as a shepherd when he would need to fend off bears and other wild creatures. Saul at last agreed to allow David to attempt his hand with the Goliath. He even needed to help David by allowing David to utilize his protection. Be that as it may, to David the covering of Saul was a weight. Rather, David went to meet the Goliath with his sling. In transit, he got 5 smooth stones from a stream bed. At the point when Goliath saw David coming to meet him, he was confounded. The Goliath said, "Am I a Canine, that you come to me with sticks?" He reviled David and snickered at him. He figured he would have a strangely simple battle in dealing with David. He further said to David, "Come to me, and I will give your tissue to the feathered creatures of the air and to the monsters of the field." Goliath's mockery and dangers didn't terrify David. David said to the monster, "You come to me with a sword and with a lance and with a spear. However, I come to you for the sake of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armed forces of Israel, whom you have opposed." David even went further and said to the monster, "This day the Lord will convey you into my hand, and I will strike you down, and remove your head." Goliath most likely snickered at this upheaval of certainty. He didn't think David got an opportunity with him. As they met up for the fight, David took a stone and put it in his sling. He threw the stone at the monster, hitting him on the brow. We are informed that the stone sank into the monster's brow. He tumbled to the ground, and David rushed to him, took the Goliath's sword and removed his head. At the point when the Philistines saw what befell Goliath, they froze and fled. The Israelites pursued him and vanquished them. There are various understandings that can be gotten from this story: contingent, fair and square of cognizance and interest of the person. A military administrator would see that no trade-off or bit of leeway can be given to the adversary in the event that he is to win the fight. Likewise, he will see the need of mental fortitude and trust in his soldiers on the off chance that he is to assault the foe and be effective. On a more elevated level of understanding, we may say that a fundamental importance of the story is this. At the point when we accept our motivation is correct and accept that God is with us, we can prevail with regards to meeting any test regardless of how huge or troublesome it might appear to us. All difficulties that appear to overcome us start in our psyches. Our discernments cause us to be apprehensive. The Goliath is some huge misinterpretation in our psyches that is truly bogus. What's more, we are stacked with confusions about existence, about God, and about ourselves. We think numerous about these misinterpretations are in reality obvious. We have an extraordinary misguided judgment about our expected capacity and powers and what we can achieve throughout everyday life. Large numbers of us have acknowledged the negative assessments of others about us. Or on the other hand, we have made a decision about ourselves and our potential by appearances as opposed to deciding by truth. Many think they are restricted in ability, knowledge, and capacity, essentially in light of the fact that their folks may appear to be restricted. We frequently get too worried about others' opinion about us, our opinion, say, or do. We may even be excessively worried about their opinion on the manner in which we dress, how we brush our hair, how we walk, or how we talk. This negative investigation hinders our actual considerations and our activities. Ordinarily we might want to accomplish something, however we fear the monster, what we figure somebody may say or do. We additionally have numerous strict misinterpretations that keep us shaking in dread and servitude. Many are hesitant to challenge conventional strict ideas. They feel that God will strike them dead or send him to hellfire to languish over endlessness. The fact of the matter is there is no damnation in any case to fear, and God would not strike anybody dead just for posing a few inquiries in his quest for truth. We ought to never be reluctant to address and even oddball convictions that we come to know are bogus. The congregation has utilized the danger of endless discipline to control us. It has no option to do that. No pastor, minister, rabbi, or some other strict pioneer has the option to rule anybody. There is no unceasing discipline except for accepting there is will restrain our idea and activities. We will continue to play out the standard, worn-out ceremonies. We will hold tuning into the standard, worn-out dread lecturing. Furthermore, we will be kept in line by the individuals who are professing to be God's delegates on earth. David is a character that isn't reluctant to acknowledge the demand of the monster. He realizes the Goliath can't overcome him. He has a basic confidence and trust in the Lord of hosts, the presence and power of God inside him. On the off chance that we are to fill in this sort of confidence and certainty, we too should start with an outright trust in our inward Lord. It isn't the simplest thing to create. The personality is accustomed to confiding in itself. It isn't anxious or ready to set aside its misinterpretations. It jumps at the chance to trust in what it can see, contact, smell, or control. To have faith in and trust something is theoretical and apparently non-existent as the Lord appears to be ludicrous. In any case, the inner self working on the human level has not found the incomparable reality of the Lord. David has had this disclosure and it has filled him with a dauntless fortitude. As indicated by appearances, he didn't get an opportunity to win in the fight with the monster. The Goliath had all the cutting-edge gear, the size, and the motor mouth. There are ordinarily in life whenever it appears we don't get an opportunity in managing some idea or some issue. Some surrender in gloom at these occasions. In any case, the David type stands firm and afterward goes ahead to address the difficulty. At the point when we go ahead in trust, we at that point get the correct thought, the smooth stone, that will empower us to be successful. This thought isn't something that we put in our brains. It isn't something that we conjure up with our keenness or attempt to sort out through human exertion. It is an otherworldly thought that is uncovered to us when we become still and trust in our inward Lord. It just took one stone to do the apparently inconceivable occupation on the Goliath. The stone sank into the temple of the Goliath. The temple is an image of the creative mind. That is the place where the numerous human Goliaths are found, the numerous confusions that we hold in our psyche. He is our human vision of life. He is our negative reasoning. He isn't the individual in our day-to-day routines that we believe is making our lives hopeless. He isn't the work or the absence of one. He is nothing outside of us. He is in our own creative mind. He is our enormous negative considered the external things in our lives. Realizing this, we don't need to battle and fight with individuals and things. We don't need to wipe out individuals from our lives. What we need to do is rout the fanciful monster that we believe is so genuine. The reason for all indication in our lives is in one cognizance. Nothing occurs by destiny or possibility. We may not realize what is in our awareness that connects us to the circumstances and individuals in our lives, yet we can make certain there is something that should be worked out. It has no effect if we know or comprehend or acknowledge this. The inner self likes to escape any moral duty by accusing individuals or things. The human sense of self legitimizes itself through legitimization. Take for instance the person who thinks another person is making his life hopeless. He says to himself, on the off chance that it was not for this and that, I would be upbeat. What he ought to say is this, on the off chance that it was not for the disposition I have about this individual, I would be glad. We ought to recollect it is much simpler to change our demeanor than it is to change some individual. Some would say, if the rich individuals would surrender their abundance, we could tackle the destitution issue. but that would not work, all things considered. On the off chance that there is need in our lives, we should dispose of the Goliath in us that accepts that we must be in need. We must have the straightforward confidence of a David that accepts that God accommodates each need. I might simply want to offer a single word of outright alert. There should be no self-image double-dealing. We should have a flat-out trustworthiness in working on a fundamental level. There must a total eagerness to give up and trust in the eternal Lord. At the point when the conscience can give up and do this, at that point the individual will encounter a flood of confidence and certainty he has never known. It won't be a pompous confidence. It will be a quiet inward balance. The brain will find a sense of contentment while meeting the greatest of monsters. At the point when the apparently outlandish vision is changed or executed, the external will change. We should remove the monster's head. We should kill the negative conviction at the source, in the head, in the creative mind. It doesn't take a great deal of hardware in the external to transform us. It doesn't take a ton of magical equations. All it takes is a simple trust in the Lord. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed.